This video is on the topic of below-the-line promotion techniques. So it's looking at promotional techniques which are based on small-scale, more individualistic approaches to marketing. Above the line suggests much more extensive marketing using perhaps national media, perhaps television stations, radio, national newspapers, magazines. So it's above the line is much more expensive. Below the line is much more community based, trying to deal with the customer perhaps face to face. So it's much more individualistic. And there are different ways of looking at below the line. There are different techniques that can be used. Now, in other videos on this topic, we've met this diagram before. You can see there are many ways in which we can engage with customers in this below the line manner, this below the line way, which is much more individualistic, as I said. And what these videos, these few videos that we're dealing with here, are doing is picking out some of these and discussing them in a little more detail. So in this particular one, we're going to look at direct marketing. Other videos related to below the line promotion techniques cover different aspects of this diagram. So in this particular case, we're going to talk about direct marketing. Direct marketing is a promotion technique which aims to attract and retain existing and new customers. So it's aimed at attracting new customers and retaining the existing ones. It's direct marketing which is aimed specifically at growing the sales of the business. Direct marketing is aimed at target audiences, assessment of their activities, behavioral patterns, a database containing analysis and recordings. So it's very focused. It's looking at specific customer groups. It's looking at the demographics and the characteristics of the customer base. And it's trying to work out what is the most appropriate form of contact between the organization, between the business and those customers, with a view of making sales. This technique ensures that customer information can be efficiently recorded and to develop effective relationship marketing. So it's constantly striving to pick up information about customers, any information about customers, but clearly the more extensive the information is, the better. But trying to collect the information, trying to enter it onto a database so the database can be interrogated and insights into customer needs and wants, their characteristics, where they live, their income levels, their just their general data, gender, age, work status, and so on. This information could be relevant. But what it does enable the company to do is to build up relationship marketing. They're able to deal with the customer, perhaps one-to-one. They might deal with the customer one-to-one online. So they're keeping contact with the customer. They periodically send the customer an email and inform the customers of promotions and what they're working on and how the product is developing and how the company is doing. They're keeping a relationship open with the customer. But they're doing it, of course, because the customer has agreed for this to happen. Otherwise, it would be intrusive. It would be considered as a spam contact, an unwarranted intrusion into this life of this individual. So the customer has agreed for this type of contact to be maintained. Direct marketing is used alongside other promotional techniques to support the overall marketing effort. The fact that the company is collecting information about its customers and trying to maintain some sort of contact with them, build up this relationship with them, doesn't mean that it's not also trying other techniques for marketing. And these various approaches augment each other. They link to each other and support each other. So it does not preclude the organization from engaging in other forms of marketing. This type of marketing ensures effective communication between the organization and customers or clients. It must be effective communications. It should be communications that the clients or the customers want. It contains information and promotions and background details about the product and the use of the product and what the company is doing and what it's working on, and it's maintaining an effective communication, a live communication channel, and ideally a two-way communications, not just a company sending emails or sending contacts to the customer, albeit the customer has approved for this contact. But it should be two-way. The customer should be able to send comments back, and the customer is more integrated into almost the development and the life of the business. The technique is cost effective, and the organization can target potential groups or individuals efficiently. So the fact that the company can target individuals means it's not wasting its resources. It's not just putting out promotional material in general, a lot of which will not be picked up or used or appreciated by the recipients. So the company is focusing in on customers who it knows are interested in the product and interested in what it's doing. Of course, it's constantly trying to expand its database of contacts. And that's where it's putting its effort in, to try and build up more and more contacts, more and more forming more relationships with customers. But it's not wasting effort just generally using a shotgun, trying to hit as many as possible. This particular technique could be referred to as a rifle approach. They're trying to get customers they know exist and who are interested in particular campaigns and being involved. Direct marketing is mainly conducted through the following medium or media. Targeted television or telemarketing. It could be that they only advertise on particular channels that attract particular types of customer. So if the customers are more thinking cerebral type of people, they might advertise only on the Discovery Channel. If they're more interested in music and fashion, they might go for younger channels, perhaps music channels on television. So they're trying to target the likely customers for the particular product. They will also do this with radio, newspaper and magazines. They will pick selected magazines, selected newspapers, selected radio stations. So it depends on the age profile, the demographics, the income levels, the geographic area. Out of this, they will decide how it's best to target their potential customers. Using email and mail may be counterproductive if it's not approved in advance. Otherwise it may be seen as spam, which may go to damage the reputation of the business. Just simply sending somebody an email is not a good idea. It might damage the reputation of the business. The person didn't want the email. Then the person's got to clear the email, and it builds up a bad reputation for the business. So care must be taken when using email and mail. And indeed, going back to 3, telephone as well. The same applies to the telephone. If people get cold calls from organizations, they may be alienated from the organization. The organization may receive a bad reputation. It may be very counterproductive. But they might get direct marketing through websites. They may be encouraged to go on websites, and the websites may include promotions and discounts and discount codes. They can use the discount code when the next time they shop for the product. So it's making contact with the customers. Texting is very seldom used in terms of direct marketing. It may be used, and given the popularity of texting, it may become part of the new way in which businesses try to contact their customers. But by and large, texting is not used a lot. And maybe that's a good thing, because the people using phones for texting and contacting their friends and family, they don't want perhaps annoying texts from advertising agencies or from companies. If they want that, they can go and get it on a website and look up the information themselves. It could be leaflets, catalogs, and could be distributed to the home or are made available in shopping arcades. So it could be that the company makes known its products through leaflets or catalogs. Again, care has to be taken where it's done and how it's done. If the leaflets are just simply left out within a shopping mall, then they may be scattered around and may be seen as litter. Again, damaging the reputation of the business. Care must be taken as to how the leaflets and how the catalogs and how the distribution is managed. And simply having somebody standing there handing out leaflets doesn't solve that problem. People may accept the leaflet and put it in the bin straight away without reading it. They accept it because they're trying to be polite. They've no intention of reading it. They're there perhaps to buy a particular product, and they're not there to shop generally. It could be database marketing. Database marketing is this type of focused marketing, sometimes referred to as a rifle approach. They're picking out particular individuals who meet exactly the requirements that the company have in mind. And if they can get their hands on that sort of database, those are the people they want. And to that end, database managers have been known to sell databases. And companies acquire the databases and then interrogate the databases, trying to build up their own database from the ones that they've just acquired. And these new databases indicate who's most likely to buy their product. But again, that creates a problem for database managers and for companies trying to acquire information in this way. People don't want to be on databases necessarily, and they certainly don't want, without their consent, have their information sold on to a third party and to be used for marketing purposes, which was not their intention in the first place. Again, contentious. There may be an issue there that is worth discussing. Door-to-door marketing is quite old-fashioned. It's expensive. People walking door to door. It's a very expensive activity. It's not necessarily very productive. Sometimes people within the home are busy. They're cooking the meal or simply relaxing. They've had a hard day's work, and they don't want to stand at the door being interviewed or trying to deal with a salesperson who's trying to make a sale. So door-to-door salesmanship is in decline, and that's what the evidence seems to suggest. It is not as popular, certainly as it was, let's say, 20 or 30 years ago or 40 years ago. And it's broadly replaced by some of the approaches that we've mentioned on this slide just above, websites and online and radio, television, and so on. Direct marketing is a unique concept as it allows organizations to track, record, and analyze data and assess campaign success. So, if the company has permission to acquire this information and store it on a database, and there are legal implications of maintaining these databases, if the company does that, then they are in a position to target particular individuals for sales. And that may be a productive way of trying to get sales. A direct marketing process requires a database with existing and potential customers' details. So, first of all, the individuals on the database should know they're on the database and should have the right to have their name and details removed from the database. But for individuals who don't mind being on the database, their names, their gender may be relevant, their address, their buying patterns, what they purchased, how much was spent on particular items, their occupation and how they live, have they got a car, do they go on holidays, what do they work at, what are their qualifications, what are their interests, hobbies. So there's a variety of information that may be stored which may help marketing personnel. But as I said, this should be with the approval of the people on the database. And that could be an issue. Selection of target audience is more focused and the advertising message is relevant to the customers in the database. Well, it is more focused because they're clearly able to discriminate within the database. They're able to interrogate the database for particular attributes, particular ages, for example, or genders, or particular occupations. So they're able to match up who they want to target. And they know roughly how many people are falling within that category and how much they need to spend in order to hit that particular group. So it is efficient in that sense. It's just making the database and acquiring the database in the first place could be expensive, and as I said earlier, ideally and indeed legally, the people on the database should approve of their existence on the database, and they should have the right to have their details removed if they so require. Direct marketing can always expect a customer response, such as call to action. Now, a call to action in this case means that the customers need to make a response to the direct marketing initiative. So the customers are expected to make a response. This is called a call to action. For example, customers are directed to make a phone call or to call a particular number. So if the customers call the number, then the process continues. So they expect the customers to make a response. The advertising campaign could be, if you are a certain age, of a certain gender, living in this area, and if you work as, let's say, a teacher or you work as an engineer, then call this number because we have a product that we will sell to you at a discount, or an advertisement of that type. But the onus is then on the customer to make the phone call to claim the discount or to claim the privilege that was promised. It could be the customers are asked to click a link for more information. It's an action. It's a call to action. It's asking the customer to approve what's happening and to click on a link. Or it could be reply to some sort of letter or correspondence in the post, or answer an email. And if the customer does, then the customer is entitled to some privilege, some discount or some sample or entered into a free draw or whatever it is. The process of direct marketing. Well, encourage a customer response from a marketing message. For example, responding to coupons, making a telephone inquiry, invitations and offers. So the direct marketing process, it should encourage the customers to make a response. The customers have to show interest. And if they show an interest, then a rapport between the seller and the buyer may be opened and a sale may result. Open communication must be present for the customer to interact with the customer client. So there must be a communications channel. There must be a way in which the customer and the organization can contact each other. It might be a channel, a telephone channel, or an internet contact of some sort. Perhaps, as I said earlier, simply responding to an email. But there must be a communications mechanism that enables interaction between the two. Build positive relationships with the customer in order encourage loyalty and repeat purchases. So they have to build these relationships. And this happens over time. And in the meantime, the customers must be kept interested. They must be given information and privileges for them to remain on the database and to remain contactable by the organization. So they're building a positive relationship. The customers like being contacted by that organization. They benefit from it. And the customers become loyal to the organization, and hence, of course, they will make repeat purchases. Now, the process of direct marketing. Well, the database system allows for effective monitoring, recording, analysis, and evaluating data and customer response. So the database approach is widely used. Obviously, here we're talking about organizations that have the competencies to use this type of approach, or they may approach marketing and other agencies to supply this service to them if they haven't got in-house expertise. But once the database is established, once the information is entered on the database and the information on the database is significant and growing, then they're able to monitor what's happening on the database. They're able to record, analyze, evaluate, and of course out of this they have clear indication of the types of marketing strategy they should implement. What sort of sales campaigns should they put in place? Integrate into a marketing strategy to formulate objectives. It's important that the whole database approach is put into a wider marketing strategy. The wider marketing strategy is the contacts that the organization, the company has with the market. Looking at the demographics within the market, looking at after-sales service, looking at the quality reports, looking at the feedback they're getting from agents in the field, from their representatives who have contact with the customers. The marketing activity is quite a wide brief, but the database is very specific, and that should be integrated into this wider marketing strategy so as to formulate specific campaigns and to grow sales in particular areas and within particular groupings. The advantages, well, effective in measuring customer response. It is possible to gauge customer responses and to record the customer responses and see where failings have taken place and how to address the failings. And if the responses are positive, to see why they're seen as positive and to build on that feedback. Marketing messages can be adapted to meet target audience requirements. Well, the messages that the company get back, which they're able to record on their database, perhaps against individuals, or there could be generalized comments that apply to particular groups, they're able to use that to refine their marketing initiatives in the future. They may indeed use the feedbacks to engage in product innovation and development, which will refine the product and more align the product with customer requirements. It's a cost-effective approach, especially if it's online marketing. So direct marketing is good if it's online. Online is the cheapest way to do it. If it involves people, perhaps even face-to-face, it's expensive. Good for trailing small campaigns before approaching the wider market. It's wise to try out campaigns on a small scale before they're launched on a much bigger and grander scale. It saves a lot. If it's done on a small scale and the feedback is overwhelmingly positive, that's a good sign, and it removes a lot of the risk associated with a large campaign. So having small-scale campaigns is a good way of finding out how the customers see what the campaign is about, what the customers think about the product, the company, about this particular way of presenting the product and presenting the company. So it's minimizing risk, the risk of spending a lot on a big campaign. It's trialing the campaign. It's testing it small scale before it's launched on a much wider scale. Marketing activities can be measured and controlled. Well, there appears to be metrics involved. When we think of a database, we think of metrics, we think of measuring. So with a database, it's how many customers were contacted, what proportion of the total. So we're working quantitatively in addition to looking at the more qualitative assessments that are likely to follow any marketing campaign. The qualitative assessments, how did the customers feel about the marketing campaign, how did they feel about the product. These are more qualitative. But there's a quantitative element, how many customers were contacted, what proportion of the database liked the campaign, what proportion disliked it. Of the proportion that liked it, how many were male, how many were female, how many were over 25, how many were under 16, whatever it is. So metrics can be assigned. They may not be completely scientific in a statistical sense, but they may be still an indicator of the type of reliability that the feedback gives to the organization. The disadvantages of direct marketing, well, it's considered as junk mail, often ignored by customers, and that's the danger. Just simply sending out a letter to someone, the company doesn't know this person, just send them a letter. It may be counterproductive. It may be seen as wasting natural resources, wasting paper. It was unsolicited. Nobody asked for this information. It's junk. It may not even be opened. It may go straight into the bin. So it's often ignored by customers. And customers don't want to share personal data, such as names and addresses, because they don't want more junk mail. They don't want companies to target them, just sending lots of junk mail through that they have to dispose of. They don't want to be annoyed by companies. So it could be that this type of activity is counterproductive. It can result in a lower response rate if customers do not interact with the marketing message. So sometimes when companies send out marketing information, they require the receiver to complete a form. Well, why should they? Why should they waste their time completing a form? Why should they go through the trouble of completing the form, putting it in an envelope, and then going and posting it? So it's perhaps not something that realistically is going to happen. So these are some comments on below the line promotion technique related to direct marketing. We can see its advantages, but we can also see its disadvantages. And it's important to be familiar with both of these. Know what it is, and then look at its advantages and disadvantages, and understand its place within the overall promotions, sales promotion initiatives, set of initiatives that a company may use or deploy in order to try and gain more sales. But that's all we're going to deal with in this session, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.